Meet SAE International. You might not know us, but we've been with you. For the past 100 years, we've been revolutionizing transportation and mobility, partnering and supporting the dreamers, innovators, and can-doers who are changing the world. It's the child whose future career as an engineer will be shaped by our STEM education programs. It's the businesswoman boarding her flight with peace of mind, knowing that our committees have created the standards that ensure she gets from Detroit to Delhi and back again safely. It's the parents-to-be who are sleeping soundly, knowing that their electric car is fully charged and ready when it's go time. Driven by a passion to advance mobility knowledge and solutions, SAE's global community of over 200,000 engineers, technical experts, and volunteers continues to develop and curate the most reliable and comprehensive collection of engineering resources and consensus-based standards on Earth. The next mobility revolution is upon us. Connected and automated, electrified and sustainable. SAE will be here, as we have for the last 100 years, moving the world forward.
Hey everybody, Mark Z here. Welcome to Supercharged. Today we've got another really super special guest, Bob Ireland he's the SAE president this year. So Bob, welcome to the show all the way from the West Coast today, right?
Right, Lake Tahoe, stormy Lake Tahoe today.
Wow. Well, hope you're hanging on there. That's great. Are you a skier? Is that you got to get out there and get those skis on pretty soon, or what?
Moving here, it's been necessary to dig out the old stuff.
Yeah.
When I dug out my equipment, I found that my mask had the foam liner had turned to powder. So yeah, I'm getting new equipment, getting back into it. You bet.
Yeah, well, it's a great. I've known you a long time, and great to take the time here to chat a little bit about your experiences. Maybe we'll talk about flying instead of skiing, and your career and getting started. You're the SA president this year, of course. Um, how did you ever get involved with SAE, by the way? I'm kind of
Okay,
curious about that.
that's a great question. SAE did not enter my life in student years, as it did with so many other people, but rather with a pressing aviation problem. Prior to the mid 1980s, there was a large accident, or bad accident, right, with encounters with turbulence weather called wind shear.
Mm,
And among the things that needed to happen was the development of avionics for detection, avoidance, and assistance of the pilots when they encounter wind shear. So a committee was formed, and this is one of my favorite stories, actually, about how to get involved with SAE, because the director of flight safety at United Airlines, where I worked at the time, was on the committee. It was a part of S7, Flight Deck and Handling Quality Standards for Transport Aircraft. And he couldn't make a meeting, asked me to substitute for him. First exposure to SAE. I walked into the room, sat down with the committee, and found out he was the chairman. It went from there. I had a chance to just dive in, lead that meeting, help with writing the standards. And literally at that meeting, I said that this group of people who were the premier test pilots from companies around the world, I said, I want to be part of this. And I joined
that
SAE on the spot. And that's been
that's a cool
44 years
story.
ago.
That's a cool story. Yeah. I mean, getting involved, like maybe you mentioned your boss and get you involved as a mentor into SAE. That's the same thing that happened to me and other folks that I talk to a lot of times bringing that forward. So, yeah, there you go. It's on the record.
Yeah.
But I mean, one thing that people probably here in Detroit at our section may not really realize is that SAE is really big time into aerospace. And, the ground vehicle standards that I work on is, we kind of like look to you all in the aerospace world for kind of leading edge stuff. And do you guys think of our ground vehicle guys as old fashioned, how does that work out for y'all?
Not a bit. SAE has been in aerospace from nearly the beginning. The Wright brothers were early members of SAE, and the first aerospace standards are now probably around 100 years old. And our standards portfolio, actually numerically, is the largest in SAE, largely because we are a more heavily regulated industry. So it's been necessary to have every nut, bolt, screw, fitting, as well as processes and larger and more broad subjects, all governed by standards, voluntary standards for the industry. So it's never been far from SAE's heart. And in fact, the word automotive, which was coined back in the about 1920, I want to say, somewhere in that area, was invented by a guy named Elmer Sperry, who was heavy into aerospace and eventually flight directors, that sort of thing, to talk about vehicles that were not but powered mechanically. And obviously, over time, automotive came to mean cars. And fast forward to the year 2000, when the board of directors was searching for ways to be sure that all three sectors were equally considered, realized that calling us automotive was a misnomer. It had become a misnomer of what the whole picture of SAE was, and actually became an impediment to getting volunteers from the aerospace industry. Because my own example, farther on, going into a boss and asking to go to an SAE meeting, they'll say, "What are you doing working with cars?" Now, that is not to say that cars aren't a great part of even what we do on our side, and the sharing of the technologies. And one of my focus areas for this year, I've branded it SAE Gets You There, and I think some people may have seen that in some of the literature that comes out from SAE. And it's an opportunity to illustrate the importance of all three of our sectors. I talk about it in terms of a person going on a business trip. Leave your house, probably leave your house in a car. You go to possibly a bus station or a train, some other form of transportation that takes you to an airport, maybe even an air taxi in the coming years. Then you got on an airplane and you go somewhere and you turn the whole thing around to come home. And all that is also supported by, obviously, a supply chain that is dependent on the commercial vehicles to give the support for building the airplanes, building the cars, an infrastructure that may even include the crops to make sustainable fuels. So all of this works together and shows that the three SAE sectors are intertwined in a way that, as I say, SAE gets you there.
Right on. So you have some couple focus areas in your presidential term. You also get a chance to travel. Where did you go this year?
It's been a fun year. Obviously, I was at WCX in Detroit. That was following our first board meeting that was in Washington, D.C., actually hosted by the company that I just retired for, Airlines for America, which is the trade association for the airlines. And then after that, followed on with Vancouver for Aerotech. The board of directors met in June at the Paris Air Show. I caused that to happen. It was a lot of fun, but it is also important, a board meeting, important for our board to see what's going on in Europe to the extent that they could at the air show and in the aerospace industry. I think the automotive and commercial people enjoyed their time there as well. Most recently, last month, I went to Brazil, to SAE Brazil, which was really enlightening. I was very happy to go down there. They are excited to be a part of SAE. They're a long ways away, and it's easy for them to be disconnected from our standpoint just because they're so far away. But I also had time on that trip to put it together with going to a town called San Jose dos Campos, which is near Sao Paulo, and went to Embraer, where they're building a lot of the airplanes that you find in the regional groups. And talking to the CEO of Embraer was really enlightening because they know they're a long ways away, but they spend a lot of resources sending their people to SAE standards meetings. They have about 250 places in SAE standards meetings, aero standards meetings. And they said their goal is to feel like they're next door, even though they're so far away in terms of their involvement for SAE. And also with the SAE Brazil section, we talked about basically the waterfront of what SAE is doing. They really focused in on a world in motion. That is an aspect that they have not seen, have not participated in to a great extent. We immediately looked towards our folks in Pittsburgh and asked, what have we got? We found out there were already a couple of AWIM modules translated into Portuguese, which was quite a find. We think that might have been an outgrowth of a previous presidential trip to Brazil, but it underscored to me that we have to stay in touch. We have to stay in touch with our international components. I know Carlo's been out to India. I did not get there this year, probably won't, but Brazil I think was really important, and I committed to them that I'd show up again next year.
Wow. That's great. I'm so glad you had an opportunity to do that. Yeah, it's so important to connect face to face, even though we're Zooming now. We got to know each other at WCX or government industry meetings, that sort of thing. So that there's no substitute there. What other focus area do you want to mention here today? You got a couple things.
Yeah, I do.
That you're working on, right?
Thanks for asking, Mark. The first one was the one that I already mentioned, and that is underscoring in every public-facing, membership-facing opportunity that I've got that we are three sectors that are intertwined. And I mentioned that already in terms of the trip analogy, but I think that it's really important. As you said, the technologies developed in our industries become important to the other parts of the industries. And I think one of the things that was very enlightening to me, and I'll admit, being an aero guy, I don't get inside a big truck very often. And I had a chance at Convec. That was another trip, Convec Chicago. Got inside of the cab of an over-the-road, Freightliner. I think it was probably Peterbilt, and was amazed. I felt like I was in the cockpit of an airplane. It was truly amazing. And I think as you see those big trucks go down the road and to realize the technology available to their pilots, it was pretty great.
Well, they're professional folks too, right? The drivers, the maintainers. I mean, there's a lot to that, right?
Yep, and just as the maintenance technicians have had to almost become engineers, I suspect drivers of trucks have to know an awful lot about the technology that's supporting their work. So that was a great thing to see that. The second focus area that I've been talking about on the road and at various SAE meetings has been the arc of the SAE member career, and basically underscoring that we have capability, we have things for people at every stage of their career, opportunities to serve the engineering community at every stage of their career, and using that to understand where we possibly have some places we can improve. So I talk about starting out with AWIM, of course, available in the classrooms, constantly growing program, move into the college design series, and then when people become actual engineers, capabilities to learn over time about how we make the sausage in terms of standards, of course, and then moving into mid-career, opportunities to become SAE leaders, committee chairs, council chairs, possibly serve on the board, later career, get to senior positions, and finally, as we move into retirement, the opportunity to still be in the organization, mentor the up-and-coming professionals. And I had a great conversation 2 days ago with the 1993 president of SAE, Bruce Aubin. Bruce is 94 years old. He recently was awarded, and the reason he called me was to let me know about it. He became a member of the Canadian Aviation Hall of Fame. And he was with Canada, SAE Canada at the time, one of the original framers of the SAE Foundation in Canada. And as the foundation supports AWIM, bringing AWIM to students, and is credited with exposing over 100,000 students to AWIM and the future career. So it's just incredible what we've got. But within that, you notice I was kind of weak just after college and before we get to writing standards. I call standards actually a record of what works, an enhanced record of what works. That can only be done by somebody who's probably been doing the work for some number of years. So what do we do with those people that are in that gap in between college and being able to really write standards and do the meat of SAE's work? And it's important for us to consider that. I had the opportunity to talk to some students at Convac, and what they were looking for was surprising to me. In an environment where I think we're all getting used to electronic communications and Zooms and all that sort of stuff, what they were describing to me was an enhancement and a reinvigoration of the sections concept. And I think Detroit obviously is a huge example in this. Other really well-functioning sections include South Carolina, where they just had Baja this week. The sections provide an opportunity for face-to-face interaction with people who are doing work and interfacing with younger engineers. And that, I was surprised. That's what they want. They want in-person stuff. And I think that really is, I want to capitalize that in my closing months and with Carla next year and in whatever I do in future years with SAE to help with that invigoration of emerging engineers. I won't say young engineers, they're not always, but certainly emerging, and with those face-to-face opportunities to interact with real decision makers and technical experts in the industry. So that kind of I've gone long on that one. That second second presidential focus area. The third one I don't have as much to say about. It's supporting development of our international strategy. Clearly, the trip to Brazil was part of that for me, but understanding what it is we do that we can share in its current form, what it is we need to adjust our products in order to properly fit into what our international customers and potential affiliates might want and need. There's an easy solution of throwing over the fence the things that we do and thinking automatically they're going to be the right thing in another country. That's not always the case. So it's really important that we get our strategy together on this, to look at what we're doing, what works, what doesn't work. I think people probably know we have scaled back in China this year. The PRI, which is the audit of processes that comes out at the other side of SAE, is strong in the Beijing area, while our conferences and such based out of Shanghai, we're faltering. So we're adjusting what we're doing. We've adjusted staffing, and we'll continue to identify the products that work. And obviously, China itself has a number of challenges that parallel what we hear in the news. So that's an important place.
Well, challenges and opportunities everywhere, worldwide, in our lives, in our careers. Got a few minutes left here. Maybe a couple quick questions. What's your view then? You spoke internationally. SAE has maybe, I don't want to call them competitors, but sometimes you hear the word co-opetition between other organizations, be it standards organizations or professional organizations. What's your viewpoint on that, be it ground vehicle, aerospace, or whatever? What's the white space we can all look to here? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, obviously, my perspective is going to be primarily aerospace. And from a standards standpoint, yes, there are multiple organizations that want to write aerospace standards. Each of those organizations has its strong points and its weak points. but the management often sees that standards are an opportunity to sell something. So there becomes a competition on who's going to take on particular subjects, and oftentimes there's overlap. Multiple standards organizations in aerospace will try to solve the same problem. There's a real difficulty in that because, particularly since COVID and adjustments in employment levels and such, finding the right subject matter experts is always a challenge. And trying to share those subject matter experts across multiple organizations trying to do the same thing is kind of a waste of everybody's time, or it's a waste of somebody's time.
Right.
So I think it's important that over time we develop a way when new emerging topics come out to be sure they're sent to the right standards development organization with the right expertise. SAEs are really great at the nuts and bolts and parts and some of the processes. Whereas there's another organization called RTCA that will write 100-page standards on how a piece of avionics has to work. There's really different expertise there. Air Inc., which SAE absorbed into the ITC about probably 10 or 15 years ago, maybe, I don't remember the exact date, had its own set of standards, and mostly on airline operational things because they were very airline focused. They actually were owned by the airlines at one point. Those three primarily delve into similar topics and I think they need to let people stay within their areas of expertise.
Work it out. Yeah.
Right. On another aspect, however, in terms of conferences and encouraging the next generation of engineers, there can't be enough. So I don't think that there's a bad overlap there at all. Everybody can get the word out on the need for engineers and opportunities in engineering fields in all three of our sectors. I should be encouraged to do so.
Well, that's great. Well, Bob, we really appreciate you taking the time and sharing your perspective here. I can't let you go. There's always that one more question. In being the year 2025, AI is a hot topic, right? So
Yep.
what are your thoughts there? SAE AI, I know we've got some provisions in our technical standards area that you're not supposed to upload the standards into AI agents. But it's helpful. I mean, I use it every day, and I'm sure everyone else does too.
Yeah, I'm sure people are using AI. They don't even realize they're using it a lot of the time. It's important. I'm glad that SAE is trying to stay on the leading edge of AI. Concerns that I've got coming from the aerospace industry, and specifically from the engineering maintenance side of the aerospace industry, is that we always have to be extremely mindful of where the I in AI is coming from to be sure that the answers are the right answers. And particularly in the aerospace industry, that they are answers that assure safety. And I know that safety is important across all of our industries. It was underscored just yesterday with a horrific crash in Louisville that we are in an industry that when it runs great, but when the slightest thing can go wrong, it can be catastrophic. And that happens across all of our industries. So we have to be sure that AI is properly employed so that we don't accidentally introduce something bad. From the standards aspect, and it's a legal issue, we can't use AI to write SAE standards because we lose some of our intellectual property rights on that. You can't identify who the author was. So that's a problem. That's not to say that AI can't be used in helping our standards distribution system. Could be used in helping with wordings and standards, but then there still has to be the actual person with the hand on the throttle.
Yeah.
Because and this goes with digitization of standards as well, which has been a little bit of a bugaboo for me. I worry about losing the human aspect in our standards. Anybody who's worked in standards, as you have, Mark, you know that sometimes you agonize over wordings.
That's right.
For hours. Now, how is that going to be translated to a document that tries to use standard phraseology on everything when you've gotten the nuance by human interaction? So we can't lose that.
Yeah, you're so right. You're so right. Bob, thank you for your time and great seeing you again. Well, I look forward to the chance to getting in person, right? We'll connect
Yes.
probably. You'll be back in Washington, I think, in January. I'm sure I'll see you there. And from everyone here in the Detroit section across SAE, members, thank you for all you did this year, all you're doing, all of the support of our members. Uh, we're all better off for that contribution. So with that, we'll wrap it up, and I want to wish you and everybody a supercharged day. Take
Thank you,
care.
Mark. Take care.